In this video we're going to have a look at an old Philips turntable, decide whether this thing can be fixed or chucked out. As someone correctly pointed out in another video I did on an old radiogram valve chassis, that it came out of a Philips, and I completely forgot this was the other half of it. And I found this in an old beer crate I had up on a shelf while I'm trying to clean some stuff out. And of course this has got the Philips badge on it, so I did know that other one was Philips at one stage and completely forgot about it. And these are kind of an interesting old changer. Got 12-inch, 10-inch, 7-inch stop start or start reject. Quite a nice looking unit. Not sure how this thing works. If that's, I think that might have even been bent. It looks like it's possibly been twisted. I think it has. So that's probably not the best. Might have to try and bend that back around. But it's really only just a bit of a resurrection to see if anything can be done with it. I guess I'm going to like to lose, so I might have to do something like that. But it's really just to see whether this thing is any good for anything. And see, that locks on there somehow. Or is that what drops the record? I'm not sure. I don't think so. No, it's got the usual record dropping piece there. This seems to mesh into that. That's that piece there, which seems to be stuck out. So I assume this thing is probably all going to be jammed up. Can that be cleaned off, or is that actually hacked through it? Got to see what sort of condition it's in. This was only saved out of an old unit that was basically rotting away from memory. That's why I didn't save the cabinet or anything. It had been left in an old building, rotted away, and I thought I'll at least save the electrical bits off it and see if they're any good for anything. But yeah, this is in poor condition. Looks like the stylus or something's been scratching around on there. This doesn't seem to sit in properly either. Yeah, it's tilting to one side maybe, or is that how it's meant to be? No, that does sort of line up when you get to the record. It just looks like it's tilted over. Does still have a needle in there by the look of it. Got the LP, LPS, so it's just two LP sides, mate. Hopefully one of them's still good. I guess what you'd call a micro groove needle. It's a nice green felt. I think the amplifier tuner part had this sort of green coloured dial on it, but the lettering had all come off anyway. Again, probably due to the bad weather that had been left in. So I've got off 78, 45, 33, 16. 16 and 2/3 that is. I guess it's technically 33. And 1/3, as they actually used to put on there. What's it like underneath? There seems to be no way to hold this arm in place so it doesn't get damaged or do anything. What do we got here? Is that a rotary thing? It looks like it's a rotary thing. No idea what it is. It's an AG1014 T-39, I think that is, or 59. 200 to 250 volts. Philips, made in Australia. So it's actually an Australian made one. I was thinking this would be some international model. That's something to do with the arm, I guess. It's got quite the mechanism in it. Here's all our levers from the front. Oh, one of them stuck now, I think. Yeah, they're quite tight to start with. Bit of rust there, so these probably need lubricating a bit. And yeah, some old grease on there as well, which has no doubt had its day. That looks like the power switch. So that is which I'll start reject. That resets it. That's the reject lever, I guess. Oh, there's another one here too that presses. So some weird arrangement of springy things there. Certainly different to your normal turntable mechanism. Is it actually stereo? No, it's just a mono, and it's broken too, the terminal, but I don't know, what is it stereo? It looks like it's actually got a stereo cable in there, but whatever it was plugged into, I think that unit we scrapped was just a mono one. And we've got a couple of wires for the 240 volts. I don't know if I ever plugged that in to see if it did anything. It looks like I might have done. Nice die-cast chassis there. Don't think we've got a date on this thing, but it's, I guess, most likely 60s or something. Now this stuff feels very seized up. Oh yeah, yuck, sticky glue. gooey stuff everywhere. There's bits of wood or something stuck to it, probably by the old chipboard cabinet or whatever it had. Yeah, not very nice. And can we just pull the platter off this thing? No, this one has a circlip of some sort there. Is it a circlip or just a sprung bit of metal? I think it's just a sprung bit of metal, which I guess counts as a circlip technically. Can we get that off without losing it? Ooh, it's starting to come free. Let's try and get that off and just see what we've got under here. If the idler's completely shot or anything, there's probably not much point doing any more with it. Is that a lump of solder or something that spat out? Oh, this thing's stuck is the other problem. I don't think we can get the platter off. Anyway, let's have a quick look, see if we can see what's at least underneath it. There it comes. Bit of gravity always helps. What's it got under there? It's got a massive big worm wheel thing. That's different. And I don't know that it's going any further, any higher. Definitely needs new grease on that as well. That's barely moving up the shaft. I don't think we're going to fully get that out. Where's... Oh, so it doesn't have an idler. Also, that must be part of what that shaft is, maybe. Well, where's the motor? There's the motor. Oh no, there's an idler as an outer... a rim idler. So what's this other shaft do? It rotates... I don't know what we've got here. It's very strange. Oh, we've got a ball bearing that's come out of it. Well, it was worth looking to see if there's any loose parts like that, I guess. So we've got a rotary shaft. It's got great big T. I guess this is... Oh, I see what they're doing. This would feed back. The motor runs the idler. Motor still runs by the look of it. Idler, I'm not sure it's very good. It doesn't look great. But I'm not quite sure what the idler is. It's a bit different to the usual one. And then through this worm wheel here, it would spin this gear here, which seems to be pretty seized. That would run this shaft. And that runs all this stuff to do with your arm or whatever. I bet this whole thing's going to need a whole re-grease. So, whether it's worth it or not, but we might as well see if we can partially get it going. Now, the next problem is this motor any good? It looks a bit like the plastic's at least been broken off it. Guess we're going to make sure the coil's intact. And now I'll put that clip back on, I think, because that's not going to be much use having that free. The platter's going to drop everywhere. So I've got something there. I assume the switch is intact. Well, I might even start with the motor and see what the hell we got as far as idler goes. What do we got here? Some weird plasticky stuff falling out of it. Hopefully not part of it. Can we just drop this whole assembly? I think, yeah, we can. So we've got to take this switch off, or knob off. It's got a tiny little screw in there, bound to be, I guess. Well, I can't find the thread. Can't find the slot. Is that the slot? Yeah, it definitely has a flat blade in there. I think that screwdriver is actually too small is the problem. It was rotated like... Oh, is it just loose? Maybe it was turning and I didn't realise. So, yeah, it's coming, but the knob is not coming off. So it's probably rusted on or something. Well, at least I don't have to worry about the paint on this one much because it's already stuffed. Yeah, that does not want to come off. Sure, there's not another one. And this is often the problem with these things. You can't even get this far. Can we take the shaft off below? Maybe if I undo that, then there's going to be a bunch of springs on it. There's a pin in it. I don't really want to take the screw right out, but maybe we need to take it right out. It's definitely about to fall out, I think. The problem is when it does, it'll disappear. Come on, have to come. Great big long one in there. Oops, dropped it anyway. So that's the grub screw. But the shaft isn't loose. And it's probably fragile Bakelite. I don't think that's the right tool for the job. This is always the worst thing to do, because this is the first thing to go wrong with most record players, is you break one of the knobs. Is that working its way off? It's tilting. There's a lot of rust there, so it's is the inside of it loose compared to the outside? I'm not sure what we're doing. The other thing might be to hold the shaft, if I can grip it, yeah, and try and wind it off. Okay, there's another way to do it. That's just rust, a lot of it. Let's put that back in there before we lose it. Oh, it just goes straight through, so it screws into the steel bit. That's something else to watch then. I'm going to put our clip back on that thing, I think, for now, because that's going to be a pain otherwise. As much as I hate to put it back in place, I don't think we need to, well, this does need lubing, but we don't need to worry about it to get the thing going. So we should be right to get this apart. I wonder where that ball bearing came from. That's the other thing. It wouldn't have come out of the motor, would it? I guess we better find out. I don't think they normally have ball bearings in them, but who knows? That's the one. So it's approximately a 5.5. Wouldn't think it'd be metric though. Now we've got the problem. I hate these things. You've got to screw them back on to try and get them out of the tool, and now it won't go back on, of course. There it is. So sometimes you just got to loosen them most of the way. Probably because this is such a came off anyway. Because it's such a tight fit. Because it's not quite the right size. Do these come off? Some of these I think unscrew, so you can actually use them to tension the spring a bit. A lot of rust. The rubber parts are looking shot already. That's the problem with most of this stuff. Look at that nut go. So it's really just to see if this thing can be got going again. I'll be interested. Oh, we've got a date. 18th of December, I think it is, 1959 it looks like. So not quite the 60s. It does have that kind of colour scheme that you'd expect maybe from the 50s. If you look at cars back then with their two-tone paint and everything. So what is this idler? I think it's actually okay, though it's kind of pointy. Not sure it should be. It's kind of got a weird little edge on it that's, yeah, it's very strange and kind of curved over to the top. Now maybe it's meant to be like that. It certainly at the moment doesn't seem to want to turn real well. I can't really imagine it was meant to be like that originally, because it's only got a very thin part to touch onto the motor pulley, and of course if you cut anything off that it'll change the speed of it. It's quite stiff. Shaft seems to be okay even though it's rusted. Might put a little bit of oil on there and there. So at least the pulley can pull across, maybe a bit on that bit as well, I guess. So there's no excuse. Well, that sets the... Hang on, how does that set the... This must raise and lower, I guess, if that sets the speeds. Oh, there's your raising and lowering mech. How does that actually operate? Oh, this shaft steps up this bit. And that should drop down, I guess. Yeah, so that rusty shaft probably doesn't help. So this has to slide right up and down this piece. Yeah, that is a major worry. I think we'll just put some oil on it for resurrection purposes. There's that. Now, did it? Yeah, it slid on that bit as well, didn't it? Yeah, so that's all of these bits slide. I thought that bit was joined to it. And there's one more bit in there. And let that move as far as its range goes. If I let go of that, it should, you know, pop up. At least when it's fairly loose. And yeah, the rubber mount's completely gone. Probably shouldn't have quite that much oil, but it'll do for now. It's soaking into something, so it should be right. I should really take that circlip off, but I think, should I really have a better look at this idler? Not sure what's going on with this. Maybe it's meant to be that way. Maybe it's all worn, I don't know. Weirdest thing I've ever seen. As far as a record player idler goes. Oops, we've got a loose washer on there as well, of course. Clear one so you can't see it. Naturally, put that with the circlip. Put a tiny bit of oil on there. Let that run down a bit. Yeah, I got no idea what I'm even looking at. Certainly an interesting old unit. I don't think it used this other part of the face. It's got a wider bit there and lower diameter. But that sort of almost comes out, it sort of curves over to an edge or something. It's not really a point in the middle or anything. I have no idea whether that's exactly how it's meant to be or not. That's really weird. Still a little stiff. Yeah, it's getting freeing out. It's a bit wobbly. Probably bent from sitting in the same position. At least it doesn't seem that, so it mustn't have been touched on the motor because it hasn't got a dent in it anywhere that I can see. It's a bit bendy up and down wise though. I think we'll call that fixed for resurrection purposes. Well, at least as far as movement goes, I'm not sure how well it's going to grab hold of things, but we might see if we can get the... Wow, I've got to see about this shaft, whether we can get the platter to run. That is not going on. There we are. Probably should clean that again after putting my potentially oily fingers on it, but that'll do for now. But yeah, 3 rubber mounts are meant to go there. They're all shot. Very little left of them. Yeah, 59. The paint job definitely looks like a 59 Chev or something. That sort of era. FC Holden or whatever it was at the time. Definitely got those vibes to the pastel two-tone paint. One of the nicer eras of car paint and stuff, I think. Probably don't even need to put the nuts back on this. We could just temporarily attach it with these things. They're probably meant to be tensioned up to a certain amount or something, set to a certain height, I'm not sure. Obviously there's a tool to go in the 2 holes to turn them. Might as well put the nuts back on so I don't lose them. Tighten them down a bit. I've got an old, yeah, pretty old school cap there. Is that an... oh, it is a Ducon, so Phillips used a Ducon in there, not a Phillips. They probably bought the company anyway at some stage, if not by then. since Philips bought up most of the Australian electronics manufacturing industry as it sort of died off, so that was quite a while after this era. So if that's disengaged, does that just spin freely? I shouldn't have put that clip back on until I put a bit of oil in there, I guess, but anyway. Oh, is that where the ball bearing came out? Oh, I think it's got ball bearings at the bottom, so it's probably my fault I let one of them out. So do we take this mech out? What operates the record changer bit? That's welded to the base. It's kind of catch-22, how you get this thing apart with this. Does this come out to allow this to come out? Well, this drops off, so everything comes out the bottom if we can get the platter off. So at some stage I'm going to have to put that ball bearing back and probably service that bit. So it's got a little slot in that bit. Is that loose on the shaft? So that's actually loose on the shaft even though it's meant to be screwed to it. But this, whatever it is, I think is seized up. Oh, it certainly doesn't do anything, and I assume if that's a rotary shaft it should rotate. There's an outer piece there. I don't think that probably can lock it, but not at the moment. So we've got to take, take the end of that off and slide it. It's got a big disc thing there. Yeah, that's got bolted to, oh, well, it's not, it's bolted to a gear, but then it fits into the end of this thing, I think. I think you've got to take the platter off. What does this do? Oh, well, it comes right off. Well, that will solve that problem. And does this? No, it does come out, and it needs a good lube. So we just have to take that off, those two bits off, take our clip back out. Let's try and prise that up a bit. Usually the tension goes out of them as you pop it upwards. There we are. Ah, yeah, that's where our ball bearings sat. Did I lose any more? Or some already gone walkabout? Oh no, I can see where the one came out. I think we've lost one other. Ah, there it is. So that's not good. Things that have random ball bearings loose in them. That all needs relubing. This has probably got the worst grease on earth on it. Ah, well that piece just falls off. So that's part of, oh, that's the other half of the bearings, obviously. That's what's meant to hold them in there. So the grease is so sticky it's come off with this part, which it shouldn't. Is that actually intact or is that broken? Oh, I think it does in there. I bet that's got the nastiest looking stuff up there. Oh, that's where the other half of that, where that shaft goes down, so yeah, that's going to be rather horrible stuff. To match this horrible stuff, yeah, that does not feel very smooth or nice. Is that actual wear on it? I think, no, it's lost some of its plating, I think. It's got a silver plating on it and that's come off, I think. So what's that, a pin? Oh, I see that pivot sideways. So this is like a bent piece. But that's loose enough, I think, to do with that. Obviously, wants flushing all the old stuff out. If you're going to fix it properly. Okay, so that, we really need to get that old bearing off there. Well, we can take this bit off, I think, now. I think it's the only way, is to demolish this thing and start again. Let's see if it works. Well, I can see it's starting to drop already. Oh, what am I doing? Wrong bloody thing. Better make sure I do that up again. Oh, that was the motor mount. Okay, well we know those are loose already. Yeah, okay. Well, something's starting to give here, so that's good. I think we're going to just undo that other end. Probably take this screw that's covering it off. That's just, I guess, stop it unscrewing itself and falling off or something. Try not to drop that screw, and of course, that's what happens. It's got some horrible goo on it. I bet this piece, whatever it is full of goo or something. I'm not sure how the mechanism works. We've got another piece sitting. That just pulls off a little chassis thing there. We've got another pin. Oh, that's hooked up under that piece. How do we get that out? Just a bit of angle on the dangle. We're not free yet though. Okay. Oh, there's that pin that rotates or whatever on there. It's got a plate thing there on a pin. It probably doesn't come out. It also sits on something on the bottom. Oh, it goes up through this. Don't tell me I have to take that whole shaft out. Possibly. I think we may. Oh no, it's onto the side of that. So it should be, that piece here should push out of the way. I think. It's jamming the, oh no, that's where the cord goes. So we need to get, catch 22, we need to just pivot it all over this way, I think. Let's get that shaft out of there because that's getting in the way. Can this come off at all? Oh, I better watch this. So that is the bit. It comes out now, a little brake thing or something fits between the gear and the aluminium bit. Kind of need, oh maybe we need to get that out of the way. I prefer not to take too many parts off because then you've got to remember where they all went. So that just slots off. Really need to get rid of some of these wires, I think. Well, that one doesn't really do anything, so scrap metal for you. I can pivot it, but still not enough, I don't think, to... Do I really have to take the arm off? Or just, that can't come out of that bracket. No, the bracket's there. I think I might have to. I've got to either go one way or the other. Can I work on this as is? It just yanks this whole bit with it, so I don't think it's... Oh yeah, now I can rotate that a bit. It's all seized up. At least I can rotate that upside down. There's two rollers that roll on it. Will this then run? It is kind of loose at that end, I think. Oh, that's because we've unbolted it though, that's probably why. Problem with these things, you really do need to dismantle everything, I think. I think it's time. That's broken anyway, so let's get rid of that. Is that screwed on? Yeah, it is, and the wires are broken going up to the pickup. Hang on, this bracket's welded on there, so we've got to pull this shaft up, I think. That's our switch. It's going to be a hell of a lot to put back together, unfortunately, but I'm not sure I have any choice. Well, the other thing we have to do is cut this pickup, last remnants of the earth wire off. Does this just come off? I doubt it's that easy, is it? Who knows? I think it just dropped. Oh, yeah, it might. Oh, I see other stuff. Oh, this is another. I don't know. What have we got here? No, maybe not. Oh no, we've got a little plastic bit. Another ball bearing's fallen out. I don't know where. Oh, that plastic came off the end of one of those shafts, I think. Some rubber bits turned up. Let's remove these screws holding this on. Well, if nothing else, we're going to demolish this thing and save all the parts out of it. But we may get it back together yet. Oh, a great big brass shaft sticking out of that. I wasn't expecting that to come with it. Now this is going to have to be gentle with this because we don't want to break this thing. That's got another pin pivoting with it. So that's joined onto all this stuff. Of course that's not going to just come out, is it? Well, what holds it together? That pin, does that go down into this piece? It looks like it might. The other option is undo this from the top and see if that removes the top bit, which I suspect it will. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the look of that wire in there, but I think we might even take that off. I'm just going to have to put up with threading it back in later. It's got a big pin there. You'd think this piece would come off. If they made that come off, it would have been a lot easier. So it turns within some of this stuff. Nothing I'm missing there, is it? No, it's just... Well, this must be attached. No, it's definitely not attached to it because it rotates quite freely. Let's put some oil on some stuff. Anything to do with this shaft and this other metal shaft or other metal bracket thing. Then with this top bit, how does that work? That pivots as well. So these bits are all loose, I think. So that should slide off the top in theory. And I think, yeah, it will. Especially now that I'm pushing. It's got a, what's the spring here? That's just got a spring pushing against it. Where does that go? That looks like something that's going to get lost. Just the metal spring goes across the face and it's hooked in, so that might be alright. This other bit does not want to lift. It pivots. If they're loose, surely they should slide up it. So it's got some weird metal pin that goes into this thing, or sits on top of it. That doesn't look right. Something broken there, possibly. Or that shouldn't even be there. Yeah, it's got something scraping across the top here. It does not look at all right. But that should be on this other side, I think. Is that what's happened? Possibly that piece should go on this side. Or does it slide? Oh, maybe it slides down here and back around. That could make sense. I think it's missing. It should have had a wheel on it or something, maybe. I can undo that bit, but I don't think it achieves much. Oh, let's grab this shaft and see if it feels like going anywhere. Don't think so. It's like something's holding it either from slipping through the chassis or it's holding this other metal bit to it. Oh, of course, we've got a circlip there, haven't we? Is that it on that spring? That's part of the problem. And this other, what's this other piece do? That there's a sprung bit. And that doesn't, oh, that's the bit with that pin, I think, that's up against that thing. Can I remove that somehow? How does it? It's got a flat bit on one side, a round bit on the other side. That must, I think I've actually bent it a bit by pulling down, because that is somehow stuck to this. Sure, there's not a circlip in there or something. Feels like there could be. I think there's a circlip under there. Oh, it's nearly coming. It jammed itself. Oh, that bit comes out the end of it. Oh, that might be part of the key. You get that out and it makes it easier. So you've got to take that pin off, that little bushing thing off the end of that. But I still don't understand how this other thing comes apart if that's got a second circlip on it. And that's probably stuck. That should slide down that spring, surely. Oh, that is one hell of it. I know the spring's already squashed in place. Ah, well, that ain't going to work then. Let's just put that bit back a little straighter because I bent it a bit, I think. How does that bloody... No idea. That really doesn't make a lot of sense. We'll put that back up in there. That needs a bit more oil still. Very rusty. That bit's free enough, though I'm not sure how it's really meant to work. That's all free on the shaft. Sort of. Oh, let's put that to one side. Quite the job to disassemble that. Not sure why I'm even bothering, but it'd be interesting to see if these can be resurrected, these old 50s ones. So let's clean that little bushing up. Now this is the important bit. Oh yeah, here's our ball bearing assembly that's falling to bits. We should be able to get this. Oh, does this just lift out or something? It kind of does. It's coming there. Oh, it's got these two rollers holding it on. They must lift off. Oh, you lift them apart. You meant to spread them apart to get it out. That makes sense. So we need to lube that up, and we need to lube. I don't know if that. Yeah, that spring is that strong, I think. They need cleaning off. This whole piece needs doing. Does that just... And that's the problem with these things. You've really got to strip everything down just from not moving for so long, let alone that this one's caught bad weather. But this grease would probably be nearly as bad regardless of the conditions. So that must... Okay, I think we have to take that spring off. Because we should be able to slide one of these off, followed by the other, I think is the idea. We've got this other thing in the way first, on the top. I really don't want to turn this upside down too much because the ball bearings keep falling out. I need to slide this bit upwards. I could probably do with some degreaser or something there. There's one of our rollers. Now they coming up without catching on each other. That is one of the main sources of bad grease. don't think the rollers matter which side they go on. Then this piece should be free. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Sticky grease everywhere. Problem with this mech is it did have a lot of grease in it by the look of it, and it needed a lot. So a problem if they're not used, and problem for catching dust. These almost need a full bath, I think, in degreaser or something. But again, I'm not gonna rebuild this to last forever. It's more an exercise and seeing if we can get it going. And have a bit of a look at how these mechs are made. A lot different to a BSR type one. And an interesting fun fact is that one of, if not the first, automatic record changer was actually designed nearby by a guy in Hobart. And there's a prototype in the museum. And it was a very complicated mech, but supposedly I think it's the first guy to get a patent on an automatic changing record player. Can't remember what year it was, might have even been back in the 40s. And supposedly everyone else followed on from there, I think, so he got ahead on the patent of it. I think they did actually manufacture them, but not 100% sure about that, or whether he just got a patent or, you know, licensed it to other manufacturers. And I can't remember if that was the same guy as related. They made these really high quality radio stations, studio record players around Hobart somewhere as well. They got some over at the Sound Preservation Society, but they weren't actual changes. They were just got enormous platters on them and stuff. Basically just made for probably, I guess, mono radio stations back in the day, back on the AM band. But they got a few, I think, that came out of one of the HT, one of those, maybe even 7ZL, 7ZR, one of the local radio AM stations, I think, donated them to them. Quite an impressive thing. I think even some hi-fi collectors like them. Probably one of the original ones with the big heavy platter on them, I guess, before everyone started making them out of marble or some crazy thing. But that's a lot better. Still a little sticky, but half of that's just my fingers now, I think. And we've got to get these little pulley, or rollers as they are, not pulleys. This has got like some big cam design, I guess, or something. Still no idea how this thing works yet, but like I say, I think the first part of it is to transfer energy from the motor into driving the rest of it. It's an odd gear. I hope it's meant to have teeth missing on one side. Looks like it is. If we can just get the sticky grease off this, would even be enough to get this thing running, I think. Even if I don't bother lubing it up very well. Probably better not to, because it'll probably sit around for another 50 years at this rate. Assuming we can get it going, otherwise it's destined for the scrap heap, I think. But I must admit, one of these radiograms must have looked fairly nice in the day. I don't think the cabinet on it was particularly interesting though, to be honest, but some of the colour scheme on it, quite nice, and it's one of the nicer looking turntables I think I've ever seen. Normally they're just a boring old BSR, or are they Monarchs, Gerards, usually in Bakelite or brown steel or something. So this was quite a nice looking unit for its day. And the green backed radio dial and stuff. And no doubt they would have come in other two-tone colours, I guess. It was always nice when the manufacturers made something a little bit nicer than just the boring, like when they made red boom boxes or something. And other colours always nicer than just the plain old black or silver. Okay, so that's those, I think, good enough. What shaft did... Oh, they came off these shafts, didn't they? I'm trying to think where they came from, but I've already cleaned that. There is a bit of dud grease down there. If you're going to restore this thing, you'd want to get rid of that as well. Might put a little bit of grease or oil on them just to allow them to rotate a bit better. That's as free as... Yeah, there's free. Not sure they even need it. But a spring's got to go back on. Well, I guess it'd be best to face them the same way because they basically go together like that, I think. But the spring would be the other way, wouldn't it? Because the spring goes on the outer bit like so. I don't think it matters. That spring's fairly soaked in grease, but it'll still do the spring job. There's grease all over this stuff. It's just one of those little flat bearing, little pack things. It's got some sort of piece of rubber in here, I think. Yeah, I think we'll just put that back and just get rid of the worst of what we can. Starting with this shaft. That's what the actual platter runs on. And we can slowly put everything back together, hopefully. If I can remember how, but we're still going to work on this big transfer mechanism thing and work out what's seized up on that, because I'm pretty sure something is. Unless those bits are all solid on there, and I don't know, that's what we've got to... I don't think it just rotates on its ends. Yeah. We should have another 3 ball bearing. I can see 2, there's the other one. All the ball bearings really need cleaning off as well, but in this case I'm not too fussed. Try not to lose any more. Oh, they're actually not ball bearings. These are actually mouldings in this bit of plastic or whatever it is. Oh, so 3 metal ball bearings and 3 little lumps in the plastic. At least I don't have to worry about them falling out. With all the grease on it, I couldn't tell what it was. Just looked like more ball bearings. Yuck, there's some really dried up horrible grease there. Very dirty, horrible job. Still a bit sticky even after getting that much off. This grease is just very, very stuffed. Filthy. So put that back on. So I don't think I'm even going to bother greasing anything. Let's just get the thing going if we can. Although one thing to grease, I'm going to change my mind here I think, because it shouldn't matter I don't think if we put the other piece back in. It was only because that lifted off. But ideally a bit of grease actually holds those ball bearings in place is the one good thing about it. Because what else really keeps them together? Not much, just that little holder. As long as you don't lift it or loosen it up enough, move the plastic bit enough to let them roll out. But at least if it's packed with grease, they tend to stay together better. That's the one thing I like about greasy stuff like that. Even with good grease in it, the bits will hold together. That was probably where our shaft went, isn't it? Because that bit's definitely needs cleaning. That's where our pivoting bits go back. And try and remove... Oh, I did it, didn't I? No, they do roll out. Easy enough. Even when you don't think you're tilting it that much. What do we got going on here? Is that the bottom? Oh, that's the inside of the shaft. Where that other bit goes. Oh, yuck, look at the stuff that came out of there. No shocks there, I guess. Many years of filth packed in there. Okay. That ball bearing's still quite dirty on one side. Of course I'll lift the other bit up, which will allow the others to roll out, which it did. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these sort of loose bits. Problem is, I'm going to have to put up with them being loose, I think, while I try and fit all these bits back on. Which is going to be... I can't remember exactly where they went, is the next problem. Which side do they sit on? They must sit in this gap here, I think. So that one, I think, like I said, I think goes that way. This one must come up the other side of it. Can we slide that together just? And just waiting to all fall out at the slightest jerk. I wonder if I won't go back together with them pushing on each other. And now that's catching on that other bit of metal under there. So come on, go up. Okay, so this other bit of metal has to fit. It's got a bigger hole. There's a piece on the upper one here, has to fit into a larger hole on this one to slot around it before this pin will rise fully up. Let's at least put that back together so I don't have to think about it again. It's actually a phenolic washer or something. I don't think that's actually a metal one. Nearly. And spring. Yeah, so now we're going to... Oh, geez, that's got a lot of tension. I should really leave that off, I guess, because we've got to jam that bit back in there. But let's keep that together for now so I at least know what's what. So it's got a gear. It's like a... Well, I don't know if you call it a half gear. 2/3 gear. Teeth missing out of one big section. And the worst kind of dried up grease all over it. It's got some metal piece that moves on the other side here, so I've got to clean out some sprung piece. Seems pretty free, so I'll leave that for now, but ideally you probably want to take the nut off here and clean whatever else is under there. I assume this gear slides off with that spring thing. The face of that spring, or the little plate it's on at least, should probably be cleaned off. But you might as well go on a clockwork or something if you're going to fix this sort of thing, I think. But at least this isn't as fine as a clock, I guess. It's big enough to actually work on. Guess I probably should have come in a bit closer on some of this. Oh well. So to get the turntable in, and then remember you got to change the shot. But this is just something that's pretty obvious what I'm doing, I think. You probably don't want to see a lot of this up close. It's pretty disgusting as far as muck everywhere. I think if we just clean this grease off so that stuff can run on these surfaces. That is horrible. Really need an engine parts washer, I think, for this. It's that bad. The goo's just building up and just keeps coming. Not sure how critical it is to get the surfaces clean, but things got to run better without all that sticky grease on there. This thing definitely hasn't had an oil change in all its life, I don't think, so that's quite a few years. What's that, 65, 66 years or something? That really is starting to sound old now. Yeah, these rollers run around this inside track, so I'm trying to around this inside of this bendy bit on the front surface, upper surface now. So I can get the muck out of there, should help a lot. It's just caked in there. Now that we've freed up the rollers, we want a nice friction-free track for them to run on. let's see, how does this... I think this other thing is attached. What have we got in there? There's a whole lot of muck in there, I think, or is that part of it? So this is just another big rotating drum. What was in the other side there? I forget now, but... Oh, was that... Oh, there's a plastic brake thing in somewhere. That wasn't the main bit, though. That was that pin on that other metal bit. Seemed to look like it ran around this track. That bit when I was lifting up, it started bending. It looks like it's missing a roller, which could be a problem. But then again, it may still run without whatever was on there originally. There's a lot of gross grease. I think if we just get the faces of this clean, as in this, the upright bits here, the bit that sticks out, it should allow that thing to follow. It looks like it comes down one side or the other, drops down. Oh, does it drop onto this or does it go to the other side completely? I'm not sure. Maybe it just spins around that one side. Yeah, I don't think it comes around this other side. I'll give it a bit of a clean anyway though, in case that is part of it. No, because it can't really hit that end bit. So it's just a pin that runs around this bit here, right around the end. So that's not too bad. Ideally, I don't know how you get this apart though. This piece must come off. That's why I wonder whether that bit's not loose. That's what it looked like it was. That's not sitting on a pin bit through there. Does that mean... Oh, because you can unbolt that one, so that'll slot off. We've unbolted this one, so should this one slot off? Has that got the same? It does, I think. Is that what I'm seeing? Yeah, there's a pin. I think this piece... It must slide off, because this bit got on here somehow, this bracket. It didn't just magically appear there. It was obviously slid on with this piece, so do we need to loosen it or don't we? I can't even grip that really. I have to put it in a vise or something, so I don't know. I mean, ideally you'd clean all the grease off the end of that bit. I don't care about it too much in this little job, but maybe you need to put some penetrating fluid down in there. Yes, it's obviously loose, goes on, the pin's there to stop it rotating relative to the shaft. When the bolt's on, or the nut's on, it pushes these things into place. So this is one of those cases where it's seized onto the shaft, but as long as it's in position, I don't think we really care. If you're going to fully restore this, that bit would probably want to come off. Whether it's worth the risk even then, or you just try and clean out down this other piece as best you can, because that should... I don't know, does it slide up and down? Yes, this is actually eccentric. So there's a pin there that it runs on, and then it drops, and then it goes back up. But because this is fixed relative to the deck, this is the piece here that goes up and down. So it's got some, so of course that would lift the arm, I guess. Is that what this is? It would lift the arm up. You got all those other levers and stuff that would swing the arm back. Next record would drop via whatever, something, flicking something to do with that. Maybe that's what that little thing is. Because does that go in there? I think that went in there somewhere, did it? Is that what we got here? I can't actually remember. Yeah, so that little piece, certainly in that area, but... Or did it go into that piece? No, it must go into that one. Something went into there as well. Oh, wait, yeah, well that will tell you, because these have to come, yeah, they come across. That sits in there. We've got to spread them and pinch them onto this. So you can kind of imagine how that works. You've got your eccentric bit to lift the arm up, drop the arm down. You've got levers sliding across that push the arm out of the way. Does it even need to go out of the way? I guess it does, doesn't it? Oh, because it's running on the record. The other ones are sitting above it. So yeah, it's got to lift, go out of the way at least. Record drops down, the pin gets flicked on this, record slides down on top of the other one. Arm sits back, lands on it. So that's got to slide under there while we get that piece through the hole here like that. That should go in a lot easier in theory, but does it? Got the shaft through. Maybe if we tilt the whole thing the other way. We've got a pin above. So it looks like that piece has to go onto a pin while we get the threaded bit back through the hole, and we get this little piece down here through with this shaft in between it. Up there, through there. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, quite easy when you know how, though whether we're still got all of this in the right spots or not, I'm not sure. We've got a pin here, which I forget what that does. Yeah, that's where one of those little plastic bits came from. So is that it? Do we put a nut on the end of that maybe? Just to keep that in place for now. We're going to get that bit in place, which I think we can do now. I'm not sure if I've got the parts in the right spot though. So this definitely doesn't look right. Push that in. That was the little plate bit, that thing. It's got to slot into the shaft. See if I can get that in place. Oh, we didn't even need to unscrew that. We could have just spun it to one side. That'd be right. Live and learn. Might just put that in there. We had this. I thought there was another. Was that what's missing out of there? There was this other thing, I think. Oh, this is that. Did that go on there? It looks like it does. That kind of, that probably wants oiling. It's not the best. Or even if not oiling, it wants the grease removing. So let's free that. Don't know if we can get it out of that little plastic thing in a hurry. Maybe if we just soak that a bit. Soak the shaft a bit with some metho and just put it in there and rotate. Take it off. Take it on, take it off. Clean it. That'll have to do, I think. A lot freer than it was. Don't know if that's time critical or anything, but it's best to get it loose now. We've got the problem of how do I get a thing with loose bearings upside down? And we're going to spread that bit apart. Actually, I think we'll take that. Let's take that spring off. That'll make life a lot easier. It was mainly just there so I didn't lose it and didn't forget it. Oh, we've got to put that piece back in there. I forgot before I put the nut on. I was supposed to put that back in. Let's just put it in there so again we don't forget it. Little bushing thing. Let's just leave it in there to hold things in place because we'll probably have to jiggle it in once we get everything else done. At least we've got some play until then. Not sure exactly where that's sat, but I can only pivot so far, I guess. seems to sit happiest there somewhere. And that pin went into something here. We need to spread those apart. Try not to lose the rollers. Oh, I've got one on upside down, have I? That's right, because one fell off, so I put it on backwards. Typical. I think we're going to have to attempt this. Now I've got to work out which way does it go. If they grasp that, I'm guessing it goes that way. Like, where's the mounts? So, I can just lift that up, can't I? If we can get this, oh, this has got to go, the end of this pin has to go in a hole. I've got to get the gear facing the right way so it doesn't clash. Got to get the pin on the end of it into a bit. Yeah, this is where it goes, I think. Doesn't seem to want to go on quite how I want. There we go. Sort of. Don't think we've spilled any ball bearings yet. It'd be nice if you'd actually go down the thread there. Gotcha. I was going to say that should sit a bit higher, I think. I better not screw these up too hard until we've made sure everything's free on the underside and we're not going to break something or whatever by screwing these home. Because I don't even know where those rollers and stuff are. I should be able to see them from here, but hey, I can see them, and they're not where they should be, of course. So that's why this isn't lifting up. Let's just leave it like that. We've got to spread those two bits apart onto either. That ain't going to work, is it? So they should have been spread apart before we got this far. By the look of it, I'm going to have to drop it more. Of course, those rollers have got a little pin that's quite high. Of course, this bit's dropping with it, which I want. I've got to hold the wheel up. Oh, the wheel. Ah, okay. So before we put, yeah, we've got to slide it sideways. Spread the things. Lift this die cast bit up. Spread the things. Now lift it up. Pivot this in so it gets the pin on the end of it. And we don't know whether that's in the right spot either. What does that do? That shouldn't stick right up there, surely. Oh well, we'll have a look at that in a minute. Don't know if that matters yet. But that should be safe. So with my hand underneath it, I'm basically resting on that die cast bit, which means everything falls into place. And that does not like to start the thread on that one. And at this point we realise which bit we forgot to put on. I really want to get that platter on so I don't have to deal with ball bearings being an issue. Then I can turn everything upside down and fiddle with the bits there. Anyway, that'll do for what I'm doing. I don't think we need to tighten that up too much. Oh, is that bit meant to... Oh, I wonder if that catches... Oh yeah, we've got some bits here. Or is that to do with that groove bit? One of these things probably catches when we get to the centre of the disc type of scenario, as with any of these mechs. Oh, so we're definitely engaging something there for a second. Now where's our... Yeah, that's it. I had to go down a bit lower. Ooh, so this is trying to rise or something. Okay, not sure whether it should. But we do have a gear down there, so that's obviously engaging with some of our freshly lubed stuff, which might be more than it was doing before. That means we can't turn the turntable at the moment. Oh, so that gear is engaged, that's why. Now, I've got this wonky little... This has gone completely pear-shaped, I think. Ah, no, it's completely dropped in the wrong... Oh no, Oh, I didn't put the spring back on. What happened to this? This has got jammed in here somewhere. Okay, I think this bit should be up here somewhere. Maybe. What held this in place is the next problem, I guess. Should that? Oh yeah, there's a hole there. I think that went into that hole. So we should have probably. I'm just gonna have to flex it a bit, try and get it back in there. Yeah, that right, it goes like that, I think. Roller's fallen off because someone forgot to put the bloody spring back on. So I'm going to get that roller there, the other roller will come on top so they can't fall off now. Let's put that damn spring on. Try and save that bit dropping out. We had this other spring which I have no idea where that went now. It went into something. Quite the complicated mess. Now what other pieces we got? We've got another little plastic washer off one of these. Maybe where that went. Or did that go on? Did something go on there? Ah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. This went over here. Just found the screw hole for that, so the little bulge to go over that bit helped. Problem is it takes so long to do all the other bits, you completely forget. And these are not familiar parts, like at least if it's a VCR part or something, you've probably got some idea what it was. Turntables, I've hardly ever fixed them. Because these things back in the day weren't worth anything. No one would pay to repair one of these. I did fix a couple of BSRs and stuff, I think, but very rare. Again, just sticky grease. But these kind of consumer turntables, radiogram ones, were not in demand at all. They were more just landfill at that stage. This is just one of the ones that escaped the landfill. Not many of them did, I don't think. Is that one magnetic enough to hold it? So I've still got the problem. I think the turntable is locked up now. Let's just try and get some of this back together. And I've got one more bracket that I just can't remember where that came from. Where the hell did I pull that off? I remember taking it off. Oh, now we're turning. It was because I had that other plastic bit jammed, I think. Oh, now we've stopped. Oh, now we're... Oh no, something's happening. That's not doing something. I don't know if I'm going the right way even is part of the problem. I think the turntable should turn the other way, shouldn't it? Ooh, something's tensioning up here. Ooh, is that meant to do... I'm not turning the gear, so what am I turning here? Oh, it's the idler going weird. Yeah, I almost need to cut the ends off this, I think, because I've got to try and thread that back through. That's going to be a pain. I may not even bother. It's coming. I can just see it sticking out the end. Or out the side of the hole. Where'd the bloody hole go? There. Come on. Oh wow. Well, that was a lot easier than I expected. So there's a pin, that pin must push this up, I guess. Well, that was stuck up before, I think, wasn't it? Because the arm was wandering around all over the place, so we fixed something maybe. Now the big problem is I don't know where the home is for this thing, but we'll screw that back on wherever it is. Now you move on me, you son of a... Seems about right there. So does this have a... So it's going to stop. So that pin has to push that up. Ah, yeah, there's your lifting mechanism. Comes back, we let go. At least that's free now. So I'm just pressing on this big pivoting bit here. You can slide it up and down against that spring. That lifts it up, and that obviously pivots it back and forwards. Well, at least that sits down now. Got to go very close to the metal base. Now what this does, and what that has to do with it, does that some way affect that bit? Or does this other bit stop it moving? Is that something to do with the record sitting there, or is that to do with the record when it drops? Does that... Not sure. But let's just put that back together if I can. There's your bloody hole over here somewhere. I can put our knob back on there. I have no idea what position we're in. We at one end, not quite. Because it slips. Let's go to that end. That should be on 16 2/3. Weird it feels there, but you can see this bit stepping up and down as we go. Does that pulley even have that many things on it? Maybe. Oh, I know where that bit went. It went up in that slot, didn't it? That's, of course, now I remember. Like that. Okay, that explains that one. Always comes back to you eventually. Now, I still don't know what this thing's meant to do. I think that must have gone on this bit. Oh, because that would be what triggered, of course, that's what probably triggers this plastic thing to move, or to cause something to happen here. And that bit is anyone's guess. I thought it was something to do with here. Oh, what I do? Oh, I know where it goes. It goes on the end of this. Of course, that's to stop that nut coming undone. I haven't really tightened that up properly, but since we're not repairing this thing, I'm not going to worry about it at the moment. There it is. Let's try applying power to it. Just quickly see if anything happens. Ooh, something's happening when it probably shouldn't. Ooh. Well, we're in stop mode, but it hasn't stopped. I'll at least it runs and it's got plenty of torque. Oh, something's trying to happen. Oh, look. Well, it's trying. Like I say, I'm not sure what that... I'll have to check where that lever goes, but at least, yeah, we've got some basics happening here. What does that affect? Ah, is that something to do with that bit under there? Doesn't want to turn off. I'll reject should... Oh, that should stop it maybe. Oh, no. We're slowing down because we're under load. So it just shows that she still needs a bit of a lube. Whatever swings the arm, I think that motor's struggling a bit. Better be careful, we don't want the motor getting hot and cooking itself. No, it doesn't feel hot at least. We're probably going to have all sorts of things struggling here, but the idler seems to work really well, so that is how it must be. You know, that must catch on this thing, so that's a bit... But that would... Normally that bit's attached to the arm. So as the arm comes in, we can see the arm's doing something to it. Yeah, so the arm's meant to push that, so... or out. Yeah, like it does there. So that kind of works. And that catches on this thing, or gets pushed more by that thing. Let's guess. So when that gets even further, it pushes on it's this metal plate thing on it. Must catch on this gear or something. Oh wait, does this have something to do with... If that's in there, and this, this gets jammed that way, I think. Shouldn't that push on this or something? Oh, yeah, that's the reject button. So reject should push, if that's out, it doesn't do crap. But that's our reject button. That would make sense, because the reject is both when it reaches the center and this thing catches or whatever and it pushes that way, or you can manually override it by sliding this, which doesn't slide very well at all. Maybe I need to bend it more that way a bit for starters. That's something that really needs some oil on it, I think. Did I bend that a bit? Is that what's gone wrong? Thing barely slides at all. So I think if anything needs a bit of grease on it. Our little mate there does. Doesn't really shoot right back, does it? Whether it should, I don't know. It feels a bit like I've bent it wrong or something, or is it just, it's not far enough over or something? Shouldn't that sit a bit higher? Yeah, I think that would be better if it sat up higher. Well, it's better than it was, but yeah, that should rise. It doesn't rise because it's pushing that way a bit. It's like it's almost not long enough. That's more like it probably. But that then should be sprung back surely. Oh no, here's my next problem. Because it's no use trying to spring something back that isn't... What? That should fall inwards. So that wheel's meant to be in a different position maybe. And then that has to push, yeah, back against that. So that's in the wrong spot. Oh, here we go. It's that position. And that is reject. So that's, yeah, okay. So if we flick that so it pushes that back, well, that's not going to be enough. This needs a lot more lubing. If that's meant to push that, oh my god, we're not even close. In fact, they're not moving at all. So this may not be so resurrectable after all. Wow, that's actually, yeah, that's really hard to turn. Wow, so this thing needs to be a well-oiled machine, I think. Maybe the turntable will force it back, but not the reject button or its spring. Not a chance. But if that hits it, it can do it. That's going to slow the motor down. Okay, so we've got quite a bit of... Well, we've got that far with it. I'm still not sure how this other bit of mech should work. This thing... Should this be catching on this thing? Well, this is that... Oh, this is the size selector. So that changes that thing going up inside the arm depending on the size. Then I've got this tooth thing which is also... Oh yeah, the lifter. How do we... So we're still stuck. Oh wait, that's what this... Is that what this eccentric thing does? That should lift... Here somewhere. Oh, that way. Shouldn't that lift up against the spring? That lifts up. Oh, so we're now stuck up. That brings it, oh, so it hits the stop and then we're stuck. Oh, that's down. That lifts up, okay, well that makes, oh no it doesn't. And then, no, that's not that mode. Yeah, it seems to have stopped. Okay, I had a quick look at the instructions that are online. There is actually a menu online for this as well, but not a lot of use. Oh, that's right, all the ball bearings are out. I did find that this lever is just simply so when the record drops, if it's a large enough diameter, obviously presses on something in there. Not sure if that bit's actually working. And this bit is correct, that it just floats around as meant to tap on that thing. Only thing I don't know is whether that should... Does that just gravity pull that down? Or whether that should be pushed into a particular position. Or does it just have to be pushed back further into the other position? Because at the moment it's kind of sitting almost in its fully pushed position. But yeah, that arm obviously comes across with the... It had the rubber piece on there that broke off and I've thrown it in the bin, I think. Yeah, that bit was originally... It explains where that rubber bit came from. So that's meant to be on there, that's meant to push this, so it's meant to be more over that way, and that's meant to push it across. So this thing should kind of work, other than I think the main problem with it is I actually probably should have put more lubrication on this thing. But what I probably can do is sneak a bit of oil in a couple of spots to keep it going for now. Ow, what am I pressing there? Yeah, so I can put oil down in where the shaft goes into the chassis, or this die-cast bit. Well, in theory I can, if I can get it down there. Oh, there's a couple of drips. Don't want much in there. because it does seem a bit too tight still. I don't know what this other bit does yet. That's another thing we've got to find out. I think I decided it should be in that position. And then that's meant to shift it, but it's quite tight to shift, which I think is part of the problem. I can probably put a little bit on that shaft there. And the other side of it really wants to go down in that little bushing, I think, but I'm just going to oil a couple of things ever so slightly. But I suspect this should be a lot freer. Maybe this should turn a lot easier by hand. Well, that's sort of, I think that helped a bit. Oh, that does feel quite a lot looser. So this should probably be very, very loose and easy to rotate. There's probably still a few other points of friction, like on this bit. Interesting, the Phillips manual does say that you should really lubricate this thing once a year. I'm not sure if I'm even turning this the right way, which could be another problem. And things even like this pin, well, that doesn't really do anything. I'm not sure whether that should just sit there freely. That, to me, seems like something that should be probably sprung. Something should be pulling back on it, I would have thought, but not totally sure. We do need to go and escape on me. Reassemble that bearing, I think. Hopefully that comes out. Shouldn't really put these in a pair of pliers because they have a habit of shooting off, but you just got to put minimal pressure. Where's the hole? Yeah, just noticed this plastic bit's actually broken now, so that's a bit of a worry. Phillips and their plastics are not known for lasting. Can I drop that down via that? Yeah, that's how you do it. So maybe it got caught on this gear or something. If that thing hits the gear, then maybe it lifted up and I rotated something. So that's something to watch. Probably best not to rotate this gear without the tray in place, because there's a risk that plastic bit will get caught in there, which is why you practice on an old one like this. So yeah, this probably either wants removing completely or keep the tray in place if you can. But yeah, plastics and Phillips don't always go together. Their boom boxes like to self-destruct, as I found out after you repair them, because all the gear's breaking them. This thing should be basically working. So it's reset itself by the look of it. So I think you just run it without the spindle normally. You should be able to start it. But it did say something about holding the button down possibly until the arm lifts up. Maybe that was my problem. So it's not pushing the arm across, and it dropped again. And that hasn't stopped. Just reject tried to do this. Oh. No, reject has started it again. Oh, that's because it's the start button too, of course. Hit stop, nothing happens. Different sizes. So that does the start routine rather than the stop. that bit possibly worked then. So it looks like we might have the central bit. So it rejects. That doesn't come right back. Ooh, they stuff that up. Not surprising, it's the sort of thing you need to get every last piece working. That motor just slowed down then while it was winding that. That's what I was worried about before. Oh, it's dropping it now. If we run it across a record, yeah, it's catching, I think. And that's it, you can see the motor stalls. I think I did forget to lube the motor. Then this doesn't fully come back. Exactly the sort of problems you expect from these things. But yeah, no stop action. So what does the stop press? It presses, or it doesn't do a thing. So the stop lever is the middle one, and it comes across and doesn't hit anything. Is it meant to hit? Well, there's a lever above. That one just slides back and forth, so we know it's our spring for our reject button. The start one hits the switch by the look of it. And I guess once the switch starts going, it probably locks itself in place until the end. So that's quite an interesting little switch they got there. The stop, well, there's nothing to press on. So what have I done here? Well, it plays down. Well, it doesn't stay down, does it? That's your speed. Yeah, the speed is the latching or ratchet. This must be, I don't know, maybe not related to that. The speed moves this stuff here, which is that piece up inside the top bit. Yeah, it's got a couple of little points there that it, I mean, in theory that should lock it in, shouldn't it? Not sure if that's failed as well. That, I don't know if that should lock it in. We've got another spring. Oh, it's pushing against this. Oh, this thing here stops it. Yeah, it stops it from going to certain positions, or at least pushes it into certain positions. I guess is more the point. I think that should push. And that's there. Something should push it back. Anyway, we don't care. We won't worry about the diameter thing because we've got a much more serious problem here, and that's rather seized up as well. Probably needs a bit of oil on that, to say the least. The stop mechanism has 0 to press against. What are we missing? Are we missing something here? You'd think it would be one of these arms here. It's meant to... Well, is this thing sitting... I wonder if this is sitting too high. Have I got this too bloody high? Well, I don't think you can do much more about it. Yeah, I think this slide bit... I mean, the only thing I can see would be if everything dropped here and this lever at the bottom of it, I'm not sure it goes that low, but that would, or it would drop down, and this has got a ramp piece on the end. It's pointed. So if that was, or something similar was in the way, that would push it. That would lift that piece up, lift this whole mech up. So yeah, it's most likely this part that's playing up, I'm guessing. Yeah, this whole piece on the arm seems a little bit out, but it's definitely got room to go lower. But I think that had a circlip on it, didn't it? Or was a circlip up this end? I can't remember now. That bit... yeah, I can't remember. So that can go down like that. Let's just get it in the down position. hold it down, swing it across. It's still not low enough that the stop, well, I can lock it on the other side it seems, but I did say something, you got to press play and press stop. Press play again or something before you press stop. So this piece cannot, well, it can't drop because of this bit on it anyway, and it doesn't drop. So let's do this sliding bit. So that's going to get in the way there because, oh no, maybe not. Oh, so that, yeah, so that goes across. If that goes across and lifts, that disengages our switch. So this is probably the part that's now playing up. But it's also the part that, yeah, seems to have something missing. What pushes it down is, there must be something on the other side. Oh, there's that pin. Of course, this thing, when it rotates, it's this eccentric gear thing. Can we rotate it in this mode? I had it rotating once before, but probably depends what mode we're in, because, yeah, the gears are engaged with the platter, so we almost need to get rid of the... oh, well, the platter's got a... has it got a gap there or something? Not really. So the drive, or the platter needs, or the platter's disengaged but in the way. If that makes any sense. It's not rotating this shaft. Am I going the right way though? It should be going this direction. So making that other little lever click back and forwards. This one here. But yeah, that gear needs something to... how does it engage? Something to kick it into engagement. Which would be something to do with... oh, there we go, now we're engaging. Again, it feels like there's some springs missing or something. Let's try winding it through. The bit's lifting. So let's say our arm is up. We're still rotating. Yeah, the arm's in that down position. It should stop here somewhere on... ooh, that piece is in the wrong place. Did I get that in the wrong spot? Or is that meant to block that? I don't think so. So we have this piece, this little bit with the pin on it is in the wrong spot. Oh, because that's the arm. Is that right? Yeah, the arm's in the wrong position. So that's probably my fault for putting the arm in the wrong spot. So that's what guides the arm, I guess. I'm about to break it. Yeah, that's on the right side now, I think. Yeah, but the arm's gone down. Oh, it should be on the record. It doesn't know what size it's got. It's quite hard to turn. I can see why that thing's having trouble with it. Oops, something just locked up momentarily. Are we turning? This is super tight, but we're not turning the gear. The gear's actually carrying on. It's probably because this stupid idler. And the arm's wanting the down and in position, so we need to lift. So that's an engagement issue with that gear. Maybe, again, this could be due to... well, something should... So this piece is the critical piece here, should kick. We've reached the middle, that should kick. Well, what does it kick? That should be what forces something. Well, that was that piece was meant to hit that, but that can only hit that if it's rotating. So when we hit the center of the thing, Something else up here must cause this to spin, I'm guessing. I think we might, to make life easier, why don't I just get rid of that? Gonna have to repair it now anyway. Coming off, what is that doing? Ah, it's just pure grease. God, this thing's as greasy as too, so that might be why that didn't get out of the way as well, because it's tight as. Ah, the grease. Yeah, that's definitely needed this re-greasing. Now, I don't know if this size thing has anything to do with that. I think the best thing would be to remove it completely, but that pin, I'm not sure what that does. But I would think one of these things should engage, something should cause that shaft to spin slightly so that it engages the gear. Like that. Now, are we doing anything? Well, the arm's up. Oh, shit, I broke something. Possibly. I bet that's that bloody little bendy, bent it, I think. Something's not right with this bit, I don't think. Doesn't seem correct. So, I think we probably need to get rid of the motor and idler, or at least the idler. Yeah, this part, it's got bad grease on the outside of this, it's got bad grease on the post. Okay, I've removed that other piece completely, the size thing, and that needs a good clean anyway. I've removed the idler tyre, just that part off the motor, and put the motor temporarily back. So we'll see if we can actually rotate this using the main thing. So we have to really press start. All start does is engage that thing. Is that what it does? That's the size, forget that. Start turns on the switch. Okay, so start turns on the switch, which should be, we should still be in the engaged mode, I guess. Would be my guess. So let's rotate this thing by hand. Except it doesn't want to rotate by hand. There we go. Let's engage the motor and start at that point. Should lift up. Ooh, we're hitting some resistance here again. And there's nothing in the manual to tell you what that piece is meant to be like. It's crunching again, so yeah, that's our issue, it seems. So I think we must have to start it engaged in a certain position or something. With that arm piece, are we engaged? So probably, well, I had the arm there, so that should be in the right spot. It's located here in a gap here, so that should be alright. So if we rotate that, gotta get the gear in the right sort of spot. Let's just bring that down. The arm is in the gap. Okay, well, it should be right now. It lifts the arm up. So the arm piece is right out loose here. I still don't know that that's meant to be loose. The only thing in the manual just shows you that one piece sticking out, so we've got no idea what this thing is, or where it should be, or whether it should be on a spring or something. But anyway, we've got arm up. And now, thanks to our arm being up, I think we just jammed the arm again. We did. Okay, let's back up a bit. Arm is up. Yeah, this thing should be following the cam thing, I think. Oh, that thing's rotating it. We're rotating we're rotating the arm now, I think. So it's not going to follow anything. Yeah, and because it doesn't follow that, the arm ends up in the wrong spot. So that's the bit that pushes that is at maximum width. So we've lifted the arm up. Then as we keep going the correct direction, I'm going the wrong way. So we need this arm to follow. Ow! Now it's forcing me to do stuff here. The arm's just followed. But it went the wrong way. When the arm comes to here, it should, now it's gone on the right side, it should be allowed, I guess it's allowed to follow, because it must come across, drop, which it hasn't dropped, then it must be allowed to follow the record and find its own way to the end. And one thing that hasn't happened is this thing disengaged. Are we in the mode now? That's in the loose period and it's down. Yeah, so now it's up to this to hit that stop thing, which is probably what's clicking. We should push. Oh, but that's the weird thing. It doesn't. What does it push on? It must lift. That plastic bit must be meant to lift and push the gear back into, again, because the gear's too tight, it has to rotate that way. Yeah, whatever's meant to push it doesn't push it. Now we should be back in the lifting stage, yes. So the arm raising and lowering bit seems to basically work. Well, that's the bit that pushes it up, isn't it? Yes, it's this gold pin here is what pushes the arm up and lets it fall. Which is operated by that eccentric piece here. So that pushes the up and down part, but it's getting this thing to track. It's just kind of sitting loose in there. This little pin on the other side of this bit of aluminium should track, I think, one side and then the other side of this cam thing in the surface of that gear. We're still at the issue of what kind of allows this to jump and start in the first place. And there's still that piece loose there, not sure what it is. So I've lifted it, but then it should drop again. This whole mechanism has to then drop down. The arm is then free to just follow the record. When it hits the end, again we click this mechanism, which again engages this mechanism to do another, at least one rotation, which lifts the arm, rotates it back, drops it, and we're back to reset position. Gear disengages, but I still have an issue here. I think this piece is broken or missing a spring or something, because it doesn't follow. See, it's up to this to follow, this to drag the arm around. It has to follow different sides of this thing in different phases, and it's just loose in there. It's got like a gap above and below it. So I can slide up and down a bit, maybe that is meant to do that. But it kind of tilts on a funny angle and stuff. And yeah, that pin's actually bent a bit now because I've caught it in there a couple of times. But then it's just kind of loose like this. The arm and this whole mechanism to do with the arm determine how far it can rotate. And it somewhat follows them, but of course it's still loose. But the other, I mean, it seems to, as you push it, it seems to push this other mechanism. Well, it did. In certain situations it will, because that flat piece there, that will push the arm back. If we go the other way, there's nothing to push it forward. But if this thing's fully automatic, it has to be able to load its arm after each record drops. So, I don't know, without another one to compare it to, there's, like usual, absolutely no info in the service manual. It almost looks to me like there should be a felt pad in there or something. It would kind of make sense to have a bit of a clutch there so that the two move together. That way, wherever this thing wanders, it drags the arm with it, because the arm doesn't need a lot of tension. It probably makes sense to have a clutch there, even though that does hit on the end there eventually. I mean, why else would there be a gap between that plate and the arm part here? So my guess, and it would also make it safe, so if someone grabs this thing and tries to do something with it, this pin can just stay stuck against the side of this thing without anything being forced too hard. So I think we're missing a clutch in there, but unfortunately it doesn't even, they show this whole frame part that comes out of there in the manual, but there's no label, even though it's all in German or something anyway, but no label to say what this part's called or what any of the parts on it are. We've got most of these other loose pieces, but not that. So I think, looking at the way this thing operates, there should be a clutch there, and if that doesn't follow this thing safely, it's going all over the place and catching sometimes, going on the wrong side, and then getting to the end of the run and jamming. And plus it doesn't seem able to move the arm in one of the directions. Now, I guess in theory I could, well, it's on the other side of a piece of brass. Can you even get this apart? I think there are circlips on there, that's right. There's a circlip holding this up a bit on, I think. So in theory you probably can dismantle and at least get that bit of metal frame off, get the pin up and put another clutch in it. But I'm guessing there's a felt clutch or something missing. Something's eaten it, or it's just dissolved away or something. Don't know what's happened to it, but I think there should be something there. But I do like this mechanism, it's quite a cool little thing. But needs to be, yeah, any like friction from rust or anything else which that shaft going up and down has. Probably the ends of this aren't the best. That needs to be fixed. Every single point needs to be well lubed, no stickiness. I think there's a slight bit of stickiness on there, not much, but I think every little piece. I wonder if even having that, because that puts out like another little tooth. So I wonder if that gets into the bottom groove of this thing or something. Because we're rotating at the time, and we hit either the middle, there you can see a little piece moving across. So let's see, let's put that back. Yeah, well, it's not really doing much at the moment, is it? Oh, so that should be sitting, well, it's only partial thing, so some of this time it's loose. Maybe that has gone to the other side of this. I don't know if it runs around the inside or the outside. I would have thought just the inside, but maybe if that was on the outside, it's already sitting like that, and something comes along, it'll just push it that bit further. Maybe that makes this metal tooth on the other end of this little piece rise, because it's currently fitted in this little metal piece here on the face of it. It's sitting equal to the tooth, so in step with it, but when we press that, it normally comes up and pushes this thing. We get an extra tooth basically. A little metal tooth comes out, so that's got to engage with this thing, I would think. So rather than something unlatching, it's actually lifting a tooth. But of course that's not in place, so that's what it re-engages the mech. We've got a lift up tooth. Not sure, without spending hours analysing how every part of it works, and really you need a working one, I think, to really see what's going on. I'm going to put that back on for now. I won't even bother putting all the bearings and stuff. I think we'll just put all the parts in a plastic bag. At least this might be good parts for someone else's machine to get it going. You never know, another one might show up somewhere, but I don't know how common Philips stuff was in those days. There was a lot of Australian made stuff around. Oh, this is the only one I think I've ever seen in my life, one of these type of turntables. Usually they're standard Garrard, BSR type things. Probably a bit of a simpler design. Maybe these were such a pain for dried up grease or other maintenance issues that they all got thrown out a long time ago. It's quite possible. If they were high maintenance, that may be what happened with them. And it does say you meant to take it in once a year to get it serviced, which most people would not be wanting to spend the money back in those days, I wouldn't think. But I think we'll put all those bits in there. I'll put that little piece in there. There's a spare spring. I still had one spring left over out of the arm or somewhere, so I'm not sure what that was. But anyway, I'm glad I looked at that because I know what it is now. And I think I'll put it in the parts bin somewhere. Maybe that's something that could go on eBay as well. And just list it with maybe what parts aren't there. I'm not sure anyone's really going to want any parts. I can't remember if I actually lubed the motor. I don't think I did. Seems to run pretty well, but that ideally probably should have been lubricated. I mean, we've got a good idler out of it. Could be worth something to someone, because you won't get another one of them in a hurry. I mean, possibly the switch is useful. Some of these knobs and bits and pieces that get broken or lost or whatever. I mean, the arm's still good. I didn't get around to trying the stylus. Even accessories like this. So this one is somewhat bent and twisted, which is pretty amazing for a piece of it. It's actually got a crack there now. Maybe when I try to straighten it a bit. So that might be a piece of zinc scrap metal. We've got a rusty but still there spindle. Does that Phillips badge come off? I might steal that if it does. Oh, it's actually got pins on the back of it. That's an interesting one. I used to have a good collection of badges off things, but I threw most of them out. I've still got some Philips colour TV bits and pieces, but yes, it's all glued. But I think we can probably get that off there with a little bit of gentle persuasion. But you know, oh yeah, it's starting to come loose. Probably the best thing is to push it from behind, but carefully, because you don't want one to suddenly let go. Glue is holding on. Well, there we have it. Fancy little Phillips badge. At least it's something like that. You can just maybe even cut the pins shorter, drill a couple of holes and stick it on the edge of your bench somewhere. But I might hang on to that. That was worth getting out of it. And did it say something about these were detachable, or is it just the actual needle they're talking about? It said something in the manual. AH and AP Phillips 22 6P 235. Well, it does actually have possibly wires soldered on there. Ooh, I think it does unplug. Either that or I'm wrecking it. Oh my god, what have we got here? Well, that's a different one. We've got like metal pins coming up in there, and they obviously press fit into these other contacts. LP/S, I think I already looked at that. Very dirty, not sure there's much of a needle left there. I think that's, I think that's still prickly. One side might be a bit dodgy. It's for just set further back. A lot of crud on there and maybe a bit of corrosion, but they're both there. Well, that's different. I get a feeling I have seen that type of connector on something a long, long time ago. So maybe I've come across some sort of pull-off head like that, or cartridge. But yeah, nice colour scheme on it. I did have a quick look online and most of them seem to be this colour, so maybe they didn't make them in more than one colour. Of course with a little red knob to go with it to match the writing on there, I guess. Or is it red, burgundy, almost going on magenta or something. But anyway, I think that's all I'll do with that one. It was quite fun to play with in its own way, even though I didn't get anywhere with it. And probably the only chance I'll ever get to play with one. But you never know if things like this are going to turn up somewhere. But most radiograms have been thrown out. I don't know if they made a standalone record player like this. They're compact enough they might have survived, but pretty rare the old radiograms got past, you know, even especially the 1980s and stuff. A lot of them went to the dump, even the later solid state ones around then. So not a lot of hope of ever seeing one, but if anyone needs parts, let me know, because I think we'll just part this thing out. Hopefully some of it can live another life somewhere else and get something else going, but these are quite a job to work on. But hopefully I've given some insights on how this thing basically works. So I think we'll call it quits on that one for now. It'll probably be quite a long video, but it's just interesting to look at it if nothing else. And what did it say about this thing? I forget what they said. I think you just put the records in place and then this sort of goes over the top. Well, I guess that's putting a bit of weight on it maybe, just to slide it down rather than, I don't know why it does actually sort of click in there, but maybe that's because it's just gone past the point. It shouldn't go past that point. I wouldn't think it'd be up on this part. And it just presses the records down with a bit of weight, I guess is the idea. They don't normally have anything. I think normally the BSRs and that, the weight of the records just slides down and then this little piece moves over, the record drops. It's got a little flat plate sticking out the side, I think, and yeah, that just flicks across, next record drops, and so it goes. But anyway, we'll call that quits for now, so thanks for watching.